This video is going to walk you through how to use formulas to complete Excel project number 2. So at this point we've got our Excel project set up. We've got the actual results input, and that was just hard keyed. But now we're going to go ahead and use formulas to complete every other data point here. So the first thing that we're going to do is go ahead and fill in the flexible budget. The flexible budget is made up of some variable costs, fixed costs, and mixed costs, and you can see that I've went ahead and just labeled that, and you do not need to do that, but I wanted to have those labels so that as I was talking through this I would know ahead of time what kind of cost we were looking at. So the first thing is revenue, okay, and we're going to go ahead and use a formula. So the formula always starts with an equal sign, okay, and then we're going to go ahead and tell the system that we want to grab the number of liters sold, and then using Shift 8, that little star key, that tells us to multiply that by, and then take your mouse down to the Data tab. Okay, we need to find out how much our liters cost. It's $12 per liter. Once you highlight that cell, just go ahead and hit Enter. If at any point you grab a wrong cell or you're unsure of what's going on, just go ahead and hit Escape. Or you can go ahead and hit Enter, and you can always erase or write over any sort of error. Okay, the next column are expenses. Okay, we're going to go ahead and hit equals. Okay, and these are variable costs. So again, we need that 6,200, the actual units, times, go to the Data tab. Our raw materials tells us that the variable cost is $4.65. Go ahead and click on that tab, or click on that cell, and hit Enter. Okay. As we're going down to wages, we get a mixed cost. So it's partially fixed, partially variable. So go ahead and hit Enter again. In order to get the variable component, we still need to click on the 6,200 cell B6. Okay, go ahead and hit Multiplies. Go back down to Data. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and hit cell C7 for wages. Okay, however, we also want to pick up the fixed portion. So this is the mixed portion. We've got, or the variable portion, 6,200 units times the variable cost. Now go ahead and put plus. Okay, so it's waiting for us to tell it what to add, and we're going to go ahead and add this fixed portion. So go ahead and enter on that cell, cell B7. Okay, that tells us basically, if you look at the formula here, it says cell B6, which was 6,200 units, times cell C7, which is our variable cost, plus cell B8, which is our fixed cost. When we're done, go ahead and hit Enter. Okay, now we have our total cost for wages. Do the same thing with utilities. Okay, hit equal, click on that $6,200 cell, times, okay, the utility cost per unit, 20 cents. Now we have to go ahead and add in the fixed portion. So put the plus sign. The system's waiting for us to tell it what we want to add. We want to add in the fixed element of utilities. Hit Enter. Okay, rent's a fixed cost, so it's not dependent on the liters sold, so we just can hit equals, go over to rent, grab that fixed portion, and hit Enter. Insurance, we're going to do the same thing, equals, grab that fixed cost, and hit Enter. And then miscellaneous is the last one, and it again is a mixed cost. So we're going to start with equals, the 6,200 units, which we need for the variable component, times our variable cost per unit. Okay, and then in order to get that fixed portion, just go ahead and add in a plus sign and grab that fixed portion. Okay, hit Enter when you're done, and that's your total expenses. To add up your total expenses, go ahead up to the very top. You want to look for formulas. Go ahead and do an auto sum. That's going to tell it to go ahead and add up everything above that cell. Hit Enter. Okay, and now we can compute net operating income. Again, this is a formula, equals, grab the revenues, minus your expenses. Okay. So that's going to give you the flexible budget. The actual results, we can go ahead and use formulas just like you did in Excel project number 1. Go ahead and do equals, go to the revenue, hit enter. Okay, do the same thing for each of the expenses. Okay, and since these are in the same order, you could just go ahead and copy that formula down. Okay, and I'm doing that by grabbing the little tiny box. Okay, so if you grab and drag it, you'll go ahead and drag the formula all the way down. You want to do the same thing with the expenses here, do an auto sum, hit enter, and then compute net income. So equals revenues, cell C7 minus expenses, cell C15, hit enter. Okay, now you've got your actual net operating income. Okay, the last thing that we want to do here is to go ahead and compute revenues and spending variances. Now the thing about revenues and spending variances is we don't want them to show up as positive or negative. So in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and use an absolute function. Okay, an absolute function is going to give us the variance in its absolute form. So go ahead and use the insert function button. So put your mouse where you want to add the formula. Go to the formulas tab, and where it says insert function, go ahead and use that. And we're going to go ahead and use, it's called absolute. And right now it's telling me here's the most recently used. And I know that that function is ABS, so I'm going to say, oops. Okay, maybe not. Let's go ahead and just, instead of saying most recently used, go ahead and just look for all. Okay, and the first one that comes up is ABS, so go ahead and double click on that. Okay, and what we want to do is tell it now, it's going to give us the absolute function, but we want to tell it that we want to take the flexible budget, okay, so cell B6 minus the actual results, C6. Okay, hit enter, and that's going to tell you the variance. Now there's no variance in the liters sold, but there will be in the rest of this data. So if we drag that down, okay, now we've got the absolute function, okay, embedded into our formulas, and we've kept that formula, so it's, even if you look at raw materials, it's the flexible budget for raw materials minus the actual results for raw materials in the absolute format. Okay, and let's go ahead and delete a couple columns that we don't actually need. Okay, and then the last thing that you need to do is to determine, is this a favorable or unfavorable variance. So if you look at the flexible budget, we were set to sell at 6,200 liters. We should have sold 74,400. We only sold 71,540. So that would be unfavorable. Okay, and go down for the expenses as well. Okay, our expenses should have been 28,800. We actually spent 29,230. So that's unfavorable. Okay, and you want to go ahead and go through each of the expenses and net operating income doing that same analysis. And then the last video, if you need to watch it, will take us through the final formatting, making our numbers look uniform and a little bit more professional.